Thank you. I want to thank Cindy for speaking here last week. I watched her. It was good, huh? Mhm. We're lucky. We have a lot of awesome people who can do so many wonderful things. Making sure it's off because it might go. I am talking about one of my most favorite topics. I'm starting a new series, which I'm extremely excited about. It's about how to live in community. And the interesting thing for me is a lot of how to live in community isn't just about when we're together, it's how we take care of ourselves when we're not together and the work we do in ourselves that makes community awesome. It's ironic, but it's almost like the more, that time alone, if you really are present with yourself, then when we join in together, we are more readily available to be who we are. And the first thing I wanted to talk about is cultivating authenticity. Really, all of us long to be who we really are and be our authentic self, and we want to be our authentic self in front of other people. So the second part of this talk, or like the caveat of this talk, is letting go of what people think about you, or being able to be okay with whatever people think about you. And we are constantly, I don't know about you, but I'm constantly thinking things about other people as well as myself. It's just how we are. And as we get older and more mature, and certainly as we spiritually mature, we learn that some of those thoughts just, are random and float through us. And we learn that, we learn to appreciate the awesomeness of everybody, even their weirdnesses. Even the things that are slightly different. I mean, it's one of those razor's edge things to be in community and be authentic, isn't it? Because I know that I have a hard time not being aware of what people think. And also, when people are maybe different from me, I think things. And I know you do too. We've got some spiritual traditions that speak to this. Now, in Matthew, Jesus talks about the parable of the talents. And I'm just going to use my own words to tell you about that. The parable of the talents, there is a master, and he has three, I think they might be slaves in the story right now. I'm just going to call them servants. They're servants, 3 servants. And he gives the first servant 5 talents and says, take care of these. And he gives the second servant 2 talents, and then he gives the third servant 1 talent. And when he goes off and comes back, the first servant who has been given the 5 talents says, I have made 5 more, so here's your 10 talents. And he likes that. And the second servant says, I have made 2 more, so here's 4 talents. And then the third servant said, well, I know you really care about your stuff, so I buried that talent and I hid it. So it's here for you. I kept it safe. Well, of course, that servant gets kicked out into the weeping and gnashing land. In this metaphysical interpretation, I'm going to remind us that way back when that story was written, the culture was different than our culture. For one thing, the culture was all about it was more important to be in community. It was so important to be in a community. That's where you got your identity. Our culture today is very individualistic. We allow in our culture, that is to say, it's accepted to have all kinds of differences and all kinds of, not classes, but stratas, from people who have nothing to people who have so much. That's part of our culture. Now, in the Hebrew culture at the time, that culture also had great differences in strata. people who had nothing, and a few, ruling class, like the one percenters who had tons, and a bunch of people in the middle. But the difference was they had such a together culture that there were many, many things that weren't even written about or talked about that they all just knew. Now, our culture is so varied and has such a variety in both ways, in what we have and in how different we are from everybody and how we live. So that when we come together in community, we come from great distance. Even in a church like this, where we are fairly homogenous. For one thing, we all live in Iowa now, and we all espouse a belief of new thought, or certainly some of the beliefs of new thought. And still, we are a variety. We are interestingly different. Here's a Sufi tale. A lady had a necklace around her neck, and she loved it. It was precious to her. And somehow, I don't know if she was wearing a turtleneck, but she lost track of it. And she was asking her friends, "Where's the necklace? Do you know where the necklace is? What happened?" And her friends were like, "No, I don't know where the necklace is." And eventually one of the friends pointed out, "You're wearing it." And as soon as she realized she was wearing it, she was really happy. This is like our true self. It's really never gone, right? The precious jewel of our true self. It's never gone. It was always there, hiding under the turtleneck or the scarf, or maybe in 5 of our chins. I don't know. But our true self is there. And when we connect to it, we rejoice. We rejoice in it. This is one more story. This is a Buddhist story. I love this one. There was a thief and a master. And the thief really, in the story it says, he basically fell in love with the master. He was so attracted to this loving teacher. So the thief wanted to be a disciple of the master, and he went up to the master and said, "I want to be your disciple, but listen, I'm a thief. Do not tell me not to be a thief, because that is what is going to happen. Can I still be your disciple?" And the master said, "It's fine with me. I don't care." And the thief said, "Really? Because every other teacher I go to, the first thing they say is you have to stop being a thief." And the master said, "Well, I'm not a thief. I have nothing to do with that. It doesn't matter to me. You are who you are." And so the thief studied with the master and presumably learned about the true self and all of that good stuff. And then he went out and was continuing to be a thief. And then finally, one day he came back to the master and said, "So, you told me that you don't care if I'm a thief or not. Last night I was in a house and I saw a treasure and I saw some jewels. And all of a sudden I remembered all your teaching, and the jewels were as dust to me because the treasure was in my heart. And then again I looked at them and I saw that they were jewels again. And then I looked again away and I realized that the treasure was in my heart." This is what he said. "When I became aware, diamonds looked just like stones. When I lost that awareness, the diamonds were back. I waited and I did this many times. I would become aware and I became like a Buddha, and I could not even touch. The whole thing looked foolish, just stones. What am I doing, losing myself over stones? Then I would lose awareness. They would become beautiful again. Finally, I decided they were not worth it." I like the interesting contrast of the two stories. The symbol of the necklace, which is the true self, and then the stones, diamonds in the world, and then what's real, when you become aware, You realize you don't want to steal anything. You realize you don't want to steal anything. You just want to be authentic. And our authenticity, our true self really is what our authenticity is, our true self. But in community, we can do something so awesome for each other. We can do two things which are incredibly important. We can, when we're brave, be our true self, and we can, when our hearts are open, listen or just be present with somebody else when they're being their true self. Now, let me put this a different way. In community, we can also be aware and open-hearted when we're being the other part of ourselves, when we're being the not completely true self, when we're being the crabby self. And for each other, sometimes that's the best you can do. Instead of hiding, if we start where we are, that's the treasure. Going back to that parable about the talents, the interesting thing about that parable is we're given the talents. What we're given, we want to bring forth. And people are given different talents and different amounts of talents. That seems obvious, doesn't it, in a way? Like, well, yeah, if I have a talent for singing, I mean, if Chris and Deb and the band have a talent for singing, and Brian, then it seems obvious that they should sing. And if I have a talent for speaking, I should speak. What's less obvious is what if I have a talent for showing up? And what if you have a talent for making origami? What if you have a talent that isn't really a spectacular talent? What if you like to do something? That's also your talent. What if you enjoy gardening? What if you enjoy walking? What if you enjoy being outside? What if you enjoy being inside? All of the talent or the gift that is you is worthy of expression. And in community, we can create an open-hearted, receptive, loving place for you to be whoever you are, gardening, singing, laughing, playing, whatever it is. When I sent out the email burst, I had a picture of my two grandsons on it. One is 4 and one is, Zach is about 4 and the other one is 9, Sam. And they were playing in the lake. That was for my vacation this summer. And you look at the two boys playing and you think they're just like, that's what we want to aim for, that true, just that unabashed, unembarrassed self playing and just being who you are. And the interesting thing is that I know that it starts early on. Even my little 4-year-old Zach grandson was noticing, people were noticing him. And definitely Sam was. I tell you, both of those boys knew almost at all times who was around them and if they were being looked at. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. Hear me. I'm just saying that we have probably had a lot of, we are social people, so it makes sense why we want to pay attention that people are looking at us and noticing us. But it is something that I'm going to venture to say that we've had lifetimes of dealing with, of what do they think about me? I mean, it was interesting because Zach's 4, his little sister was 2, and I don't think she was to that point. And we went to listen to a band, and she was up dancing, and then Zach was kind of looking at her and looking at everyone, and then he got up. But you could just tell it was not quite the same thing. She was just dancing because she was 2, and he was thinking, that looks kind of fun. I see. I think you know what I mean. Just that quality of self-observation and wondering if what people are thinking about us. I want us all to relax and be kind. Know that we're all going to judge each other, but it doesn't matter. And we're all going to judge ourselves until we actually are transcended. Okay, if there's any Buddhas in the room, then I'm happy, because you never think anything bad about me. And I'm actually happy that there's anybody who's not a Buddha in the room too. It's like this. If I've learned anything in my years on the planet, is that we're going to think things about each other, and that's going to have to be okay. We can still choose authenticity. It's kind of a mix, isn't it, between how you show up and how you show up when you think you have to be a certain way. You all know that. It can be exhausting, right? It can also be a little bit exhausting to be authentic, because we live in this culture where there's so many different stratas and there's so many different individuals and there's so much judging. I mean, there really is. Like even 30 years ago, yes, I was alive then, seriously. 30 years ago, it wasn't the same culture out in the media. It really wasn't quite so bad. I mean, maybe it was for the royal family, but it didn't seem to be that bad for everybody. And now it is a little bit that. You can go along the lines of, wow, if you do anything, somebody can put you on the media and judge you, or put you on a Facebook page and judge you, good or bad. Good or bad. So in a way, it's kind of cool because it's so excessive. It's like when things are just so excessive, you're either going to sink or swim. Right? So if every single thing you do is open for people to think about or comment on or tweet about or judge, or, how many Facebook likes or whatever it is, or if it's just so intense, awesome. Like, it's almost to the point, it's like so much that we can just throw it all away in a way and say, I am going to take this stand. I am going to take this stand to be authentic. Because that is where that's going to make my heart sing. And I'm going to hang out with people who also are willing to be authentic and listen to the teachers and be authentic with me. So here's a daily practice. The letting go of who we think we are supposed to be and embracing who we are. The daily practice, you call on the courage to be imperfect. I don't want to brag, but I was willing to sing a few off-key notes just for you. You're welcome. I don't mean to brag, but I am willing to send at least 2 or 3 typos in every newsletter. I invite you also to have the courage to be imperfect. And the singing thing is a little bit joking, but I do remember there was a time when I would have sooner died than sung with a microphone. because I know I'm going to miss a few notes. But in this loving group of people who I know have open hearts and are just as imperfect as me, it's okay. In fact, it's awesome. Don't worry, I won't do it every week. Here's the next thing we need, compassion for each other, because we're all in this boat together, okay? Everybody, we're all in this together. That's a good thing to say all the time. When something comes up and you feel like you're not authentic, or you want to be authentic, or you're judging someone, whatever it is, or you're feeling judged, you're afraid you're going to be judged, everybody's going through it. Everybody's in the boat. We're all in the boat together. The last thing we want to cultivate for the authenticity, the daily practice of letting go, is to increase our sense of belonging so that we feel like we're enough. So that we feel like we're enough. However we show up is enough. Okay? However we show up. If all of what we bring, even if it isn't perfect yet, and it isn't every single thing we wanted, let me tell you, I did not get everything I wanted to do this week done. I am not showing up here with the things that I wanted done in the office and the things I wanted done in the newsletter and, 25 handouts and a few more flags. Sorry. But I am showing up with enough. And I'm here to tell you that you are showing up with enough. And there's even enough of us here. There's enough of us here. Here's your take home. Is there someone you can support? Is there someone in your life you can support in being authentic? Is there someone you can notice, wow, I really liked it when you said what you thought today? Or I really appreciated that you showed up and were willing to go for a walk with me. Whatever it is there somebody who you could support? I want you to do that. And is there somebody you could call on who will support you in being authentic? As, for example, I might call my sister and say, I want to write this story and I need some support. And she'll give me some support. So is there somebody you know who can support you in being authentic in a way that you haven't tried before? A way you haven't tried before. And you can always try me. I love to support people in being authentic. So 2 things. Who can you support and who can support you? Let's take an offering for unity.